I was shocked to see that AOC was very close to making a good point. Unfortunately, her left-wing ideology will only allow her to go so far. At a Congress hearing a couple of weeks ago, AOC missed an opportunity to say something very important. Here's a video from the Daily Signal of AOC almost getting it right when it comes to trans people competing in women's sports.
I've spent a decent amount of my time here in Congress sitting through panels and hearings of men attempting to restrict the rights of women and telling us that it's for our own good. But I want to dive a little bit more deeply into why this issue, targeting trans women in sports, is particularly problematic, not just for trans girls, but for all of us. We're here today because there's a proposal here, and there are several proposals here, to further marginalize trans women in sports. And I think about this all the time because trans people in the United States doesn't even exceed 1% of our population, and yet there's so many resources and energy and time dedicated to figuring out how we can more finely exclude them from our sports.
We will not allow men to tell us what is good for us, but we will allow them to expose themselves in front of our daughters and ruin their athletic careers. So close. So close to making a good point. When she started to say that trans people make up less than 1% of the population, I was getting ready to be impressed. I thought that she was actually going to say something true. I thought that she was actually going to say something productive, but she came up short. Now, what she should have said was trans people make up less than 1% of the population. Why are we destroying the competitive domains of women for such a small portion of the population? That would at least make some sense. Now, what AOC and others continue to willfully ignore is that the trans sports debate is a very one-sided issue. And what I mean by that is that it is women specifically that are being shoved over to the side in order to make room for the trans ideology. Sure, there are women who want to become members of the opposite sex, but it does not have the same kind of effect on the competitive domains of men. Because as it turns out, men and women do have biological and physical differences. And it is very hard for a woman to insert herself into the competitive domains of men because men possess a significant physical advantage. But a man can easily take this physical advantage and use it to place himself at the top of women's sports. It is women specifically that are being injured, overlooked, and marginalized by a very small group of insecure men. And we've seen it in collegiate swimming with Leah Thomas. We've seen it in cycling. We've seen it in MMA. I read an article a couple weeks ago about multiple women being injured by a man who was playing in a women's rugby league. Now, I'm sure that AOC would be against men abusing women unless, of course, you put a football in their hand. Then it seemingly makes it completely fine. Now, does it really seem fair to undermine the hard work of young female athletes everywhere for such a small portion of the population, for such a small percentage of people? Not really. And you might be wondering, if it's not really fair, why hasn't a solution been presented? Well, a solution has been presented. It just doesn't keep the trans ideology alive. For example, you could add additional categories for transgender people to compete in. You have men versus men, women versus women, trans women versus trans women, and trans men versus trans men. Now, trans men would never go along with this because that would mean they would have to stop beating up on women and once again compete against mediocre male athletes like themselves. It wouldn't keep the trans ideology alive. Think about the history of sports. Men want to play sports competitively, so colleges and organizations pour resources into creating leagues that will hopefully turn a profit and allow men to compete against other men. Then what happens? Women start to take interest in sports, and so these same colleges and organizations create programs that will allow women to compete against other women. The reason why they haven't done this for trans men or trans women is because nobody would watch. Sports leagues and programs function as a business. The goal is to bring in money. Trans sports leagues probably would not succeed financially on their own. Now, you might say, Travis, sports leagues subsidize other sports leagues all the time. For example, the NBA has subsidized the WNBA for years, and that is true. But the difference is that the NBA financially subsidizing the WNBA does not undermine the quality of men's professional basketball. Allowing fake men into women's swimming fundamentally changes the dynamic of the entire sport, but it doesn't really matter because it's a worthy sacrifice. Destroying the once respected domains of women is a worthy sacrifice in the eyes of the left. Now, AFC got it wrong, but there is somebody who got it right. Here is a video of Vivek Ramaswamy from Fox News giving the answer that AOC is apparently incapable of giving.
I don't have a negative view of same-sex couples, but I do have a negative view of a tyranny of the minority. We have now, in the name of protecting against tyranny of the majority, created a new tyranny of the minority. And I think that that's wrong. I don't think that somebody who's religious should be forced to officiate a wedding that they disagree with. I don't think somebody who is a woman who's worked really hard for her achievements should be forced to compete against a biological man in a swim competition. I don't think that somebody who's a woman that respects her bodily autonomy and dignity should be forced to change clothes in a locker room with a man. That's not freedom, that's oppression.
I am back doing things a little bit differently. I just wanted to update you guys on some of the changes coming to my content in the future. As some of you may know, I have been posting political commentary videos on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for the past 3 years. Within the next couple of weeks, I am also going to start posting on Rumble. So if that's where you go to get your political content, definitely look me up and give me a follow. That would be awesome. The biggest platform I have right now is on TikTok in terms of how many followers I have. So I would love to be able to close the gap with my YouTube page. If you guys follow me on TikTok, if you follow me on Instagram or Rumble, there will be links to my YouTube page in my profile. Follow that link, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate it. It would help me out a lot. Something new I want to do for you guys. If you guys have any questions for me, whether it's political, cultural, or just want my point of view on a particular topic, throw that question down in the comment section and I will try to respond to you as soon as I possibly can. I would love to be able to do that for you guys. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday and enjoy the content coming your way.